Hare. Let's see if this live actually works. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sanyavari Paschachidastarine Vanchakapatrubhyascha Kripasindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shadvaita Gadadhar Shivasari Bhaktivinoda. Hold on. Oh, we have light from that window. That's this. Hope you don't mind. Dramatic effects. So, in this class we're going to talk about willpower. We're going to talk about how our own desire is at the heart of being Krishna conscious. We're going to look at excuses. We're going to look at what we may be running away from in our effort to be Krishna conscious. And it's based on an article I wrote in 2011. And it's from a newsletter, and it's Illuminations number 52. So if you go to my website, mahatmadas.com, and you go to newsletters, you can pull this newsletter down. I don't know if I'm going to read all of it. I think I'm going to paraphrase some of it. And you can, if you want to follow along, you can follow along. It's an article about self-reflection. And we have some background music for you. Someone playing clarinet. Can you hear that? Can you hear? We have birds also. So we have a full concert in the background. Hare Krishna. Okay, so this is Illuminations 52, and the title is What's on Your List? And the list refers to the list of reasons that I can't be Krishna conscious. So what's on your list? What reasons do you have? Last week I was asked, what's the most important practice for advancing in Krishna consciousness? So some people say chanting, some people say association. And of course that's true. That's what our Shastra says. But I have another reason, which I think is more fundamental. Our very desire to advance is the core upon which our advancement is built. In other words, so many processes by which we can advance. But if we don't have a fundamental desire to advance, why would you do those other processes? You wouldn't. So although you could say chanting the holy name is the most important, or some devotees will say association is the most important. But if you even go further, why would you even want association if you don't want to advance, right? So I'm making the assumption or making the proposition that the core, the foundation, is our very desire. And I can support that. And here's a quote from Prabhupada. This is from the 5th canto, 19th chapter, text 7. And it's from the purport. One's devotion and sincere desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead are the only qualifications. One's desire, one's devotion, and one's desire are the only qualifications. Rupa Goswami has also said that the price for achieving God's favor is simply one's sincere eagerness to have it. So, when we use the word like one's devotion, or we use the word like one's sincerity, or sometimes we use the word love, and then you think, well, I don't have any love for Krishna, how can you talk about love? So, it's not that we're talking about prema, but we're talking about whatever love I could manifest in terms of serving with the right attitude, or trying to serve without material motivation, or trying to serve purely, as pure as I can be in my present state. That we could define as love. So Prabhupada uses the word here, devotion. So it's the same thing, love or devotion. And you might say, how can I serve with devotion? I don't have any devotion. And there's a lecture you may have heard of Srila Prabhupada where he said that The attitude of a devotee is, Krishna, I don't have anything that's of any value to you. But still, whatever I'm giving, I beg that you accept it. This is all I have, and this is all I can give. But I want you to accept it. So that attitude, I have nothing to give you, but whatever I'm giving you, I'm asking you to accept it, because I want you to accept the devotion with which I'm giving. So we can all do that. So when Prabhupada says Krishna accepts the devotion, then we can't say, oh, I don't have any devotion, so I can't offer devotion to Krishna. That's not what Prabhupada means. And the other thing, this is the second qualification, sincerity. Sincerity can mean many things, but fundamentally it means that I want Krishna, and I'm willing to pay the price for Krishna, and I'm not coming to Krishna consciousness to get something from Krishna, to get name and fame, or whatever. I'm not coming to get anything material, but I'm serving sincerely to advance in my relationship with Krishna. And this is what I want. So sincerity, we can look at it as both the purity in the motivation of service, but also the sincere desire to be Krishna conscious. I genuinely want to be Krishna conscious. The more sincerity we have, that would mean the more desire we have to be Krishna conscious. More so than anything else. That's the idea. That desire is much stronger than any other desire. That would be a definition of sincere. And then also a definition of sincere would be, I'm willing to undergo activities that are necessary to awaken my Krishna consciousness. Right? You agree? You think, okay, if a person's sincere, you get nice background pictures. If a person's sincere, then the concept, I think, naturally arises that they would be willing to do whatever within their power to be Krishna conscious, and willing to do whatever in their power to avoid slipping away or doing things which are detrimental. So, so the next paragraph, I make the point that when we become Krishna conscious, we're giving up a lot. We're giving up of the things that we have been accustomed to for many lifetimes, and the things that everyone's accustomed to, and then we're giving them up. And so I made that point to show the power of the desire, because when someone is sincere, or as Prabhupada says, they have devotion and they're sincere, this empowers them to be able to do what's necessary. And in the case of us becoming devotees, what was necessary was unusual, because it was not like giving up one thing, it was just giving up a whole way of life, a whole consciousness. So we did that. And how did we do that? That's the important question. So I brought up that point that we did what was seemingly impossible. We controlled ourselves in ways that we've never done before, because we had the desire. We came to a certain point in our lives where we hit this threshold that we were ready to take the spiritual life. And because the desire was strong, we were able to leave that other life. It was the sincerity with which we came to Krishna consciousness with. That was the power, it was the energy that moved us to do things which really we've never done before. I personally, I couldn't follow Krishna consciousness perfectly until I moved in the ashram, but right before I moved in the ashram, I knew I'd be able to follow it. I knew that I had enough sincerity, but I knew I needed that environment, so I was willing to enter that environment and live in a house and sleep on the floor without any luxuries and so forth. That sincerity, really the point here, the point of this whole class is that your sincerity is more powerful than anything. And if in any way you decrease that sincerity or lack that sincerity, it's going to manifest in various degrees of not being Krishna conscious. And if a devotee is sincere, he'll be willing to do what he has to do. A lot of times people want solutions, but they actually don't want the solution. You know what I mean? Prabhu, how can I do this? How can I conquer this problem? Do you want to know the answer? Do you really want to do what's necessary? Well, the sincere devotee will say, yes, I'm willing to do what's necessary. If we're not sincere, we'll get the answer and we won't do it. Or somehow we won't understand Prabhupada's instructions in regards to helping ourselves. If sincerity is lacking, it's somehow instruction won't be understood well, or we won't be able to execute it. So sometimes the word for eagerness is translated as greed. So if we understand the meaning of greed, greed is I have to have it. I just have to. And I'll do everything I can to get it. So the idea in the scripture is saying that when you come to that level where you have to have Krishna consciousness, then no matter what happens to you, no matter what problems you have, no matter how many times you fall on your face, if you have to have Krishna consciousness, you'll get up and you'll keep working. You won't give up. But if you don't have that, then it's very easy to give in to excuses. So let me read the next quote. If one develops this lolyam is greed, or excessive eagerness for meeting and serving the Lord in a particular way, that is the price to enter into the kingdom of God. Otherwise, there is no material calculation for the value of the ticket by which one can enter the kingdom of God. In other words, if you don't have sincerity, there's no material solution. And even if there is a material solution, it's not a complete solution if you lack sincerity. Because if you lack sincerity, you'll allow yourself to be disturbed by whatever it is that disturbs you. And you won't do anything about it because your eagerness to be Krishna conscious is not strong enough to do anything about it. Hare Krishna. Oh, Govinda. Hare Krishna. So let me read again. If one develops this lolyam or excessive eagerness for meeting and serving the Lord in a particular way, that is the price to enter into the kingdom of God. Otherwise, there's no material calculation for the value of the ticket by which one can enter the kingdom of God. The only price for such entrance is this lolyam lalasamai, or desire and great eagerness. So, in other words, this is from Nectar and Devotion, what's being said is there's no other material or spiritual qualification. Say, okay, well, how will I enter the kingdom of God? Okay, I'll chant good rounds. I'll try to do good service. I'll try to be a good disciple. So many things. And those are all good. But fundamental to that is excessive eagerness for meeting and serving the Lord. This is of course excessive eagerness. This Prabhupada is describing a higher state of Krishna consciousness, a higher state of sadhana. But here Prabhupada says this is the only price for such entrance. So, and then, of course, if you're hearing this, then you're thinking, okay, this makes sense. What is, how do I get this eagerness? And I'll express what I think. You see, you will get eagerness by hearing. You will get eagerness by associating. You will get eagerness by chanting good rounds. You'll get eagerness by visiting the Dham. You'll get eagerness by doing so many things. But at the same time, it's not guaranteed that by doing those things you'll get eagerness, because sometimes devotees may resist being more Krishna conscious than they're ready for. And so although they're doing the right things, they're resisting on some level being able to fully absorb the benefit of the activities they're getting. So it's not that just you're hearing, because so many people hear and nothing happens, and so many people chant and they don't advance on the same level. So it's not that we're just hearing or chanting or associating, but that eagerness is what stimulates all that to really, to really take hold. Does that make sense? It's like a catalyst. Like you put everything in a pot, then you put in the catalyst, and it all starts to cook. And so then, to answer the question, where does the eagerness come from? In many ways, it comes from our own eagerness. And I think there's no better way to say that than that's where it comes from. Okay, Shastra says, hear from advanced devotees, it will develop your eagerness. Does everyone who hears from advanced devotees become eager? Not necessarily. So there is a lot to be said about your own will, your own sincerity, your own eagerness manifesting. So then that naturally begs the question: Can I decide that I will be more sincere, that I will be more eager? Yeah, you can decide. Not only can you have to decide, because that's the qualification for it to happen. And I think a lot of us don't want to believe that, because by believing that, it puts all the responsibility on us. And so often, we're unwilling to put the responsibility for our lack of Krishna consciousness on ourselves. So we might say, no, you can't just have a desire. It takes lifetimes, and you have to, be in association of very advanced devotees, and Maya is very strong. So we'll have all these reasons why we can't have a strong desire to be Krishna conscious. And reasons which are not true, because we don't have the desire, and we want to make believe there are reasons we don't have it, which are not true. And we're going to get into this. Now, and one of my proofs for this principle is that look at your situation before you were a devotee, and look at the transition you had to make. It's a transition you have to make from being a non-devotee to a devotee. It's like a huge transition, much greater than any transition we're going through now, isn't it? You're going from a life pretty much based around your own self, not much Krishna, if any, to a completely different life. So how could you do that? That seems materially impossible. Well, you did it because you wanted to, not because you were qualified, not because you had good sadhana. You didn't have any sadhana. You just decided, on this day I'm moving in the temple, and I'm leaving this life behind me. That's a huge thing. How did you do that? You decided to do that. You were eager to be Krishna conscious. And because you were eager, you had the power to make this huge transformation. And it wasn't based on your chanting Shuddhanam, and you're getting the association of very advanced devotees, and you're reading Bhagavatam 3 hours a day, and you're going to Vrindavan every year. It wasn't based on any of that. It was based on your desire at this point in your life to be Krishna conscious. You made a decision, I want to be Krishna conscious, and you're able to give everything up. So that proves a point that it proves 2 points, that we have the will, we can do that, we can make those decisions from a very non-Krishna conscious position. We can accept the mercy, we can decide to accept the mercy, take advantage of it. And number 2, we can make great changes no matter how conditioned we were, because the force that's pushing us forward is our desire. That force, if that desire is strong, if that eagerness is strong, and sincerity is strong, then you really, that momentum is so powerful, you'll always go forward. Even if you get sidetracked, you'll always recalibrate to the point where you want to go. So I want to read the next quote. This is from a conversation. Yes, Krishna consciousness is available. You can purchase it from this Krishna consciousness movement. I thought Prabhupada was going to say, Krishna consciousness is available. You can purchase it on Krishna.com. Sort of. You can purchase it from this Krishna consciousness movement. Yeah. Where can I find Krishna? Go down to our temple. You can buy it. That's available. What is the price? It is such a nice thing, but you have to pay the price. What is that? Tatralolyam apimula ekanam. So the same shloka. Simply your eagerness. That is the price. You have to pay this price. Then you get Krishna immediately. Krishna is not poor, and the Krishna seller, the Krishna devotee, he's also not poor. He can distribute Krishna free, and he's doing that, but you simply have to purchase by your eagerness. So that's pretty clear. Where do you get Krishna? You get him from the Krishna conscious movement. How much does he cost? What's the price? Your eagerness. How much eagerness? Sufficient. Then you get Krishna. Not just a little, but sufficient eagerness. Now, we have a situation that sometimes comes up. Devotees lose their desire. So now I want to list some reasons this may happen. Well, I'll read this. I'm skipping around. What will it take to get the will out of bed and become fully active and intense? In other words, we use the analogy the will went to sleep. So what will it take to get it going? It will take one thing, you. And I think that is the one thing too many of us are afraid to admit. It's like I was saying before. It's easier to think, well, there's so many reasons I'm not Krishna conscious. And I hear them all the time. I've probably heard them all. And, in a sense, you could say they may be true or all of them may be true. But in another sense, you could say they're only true if you allow them to be true. Otherwise, they're not true or they don't have to be true. So, we breathe more easily when we think the will is weak because of blank, blank, blank. In other words, we feel better, we feel more comfortable. If I'm not Krishna conscious and I can say, well, the reason is because of whatever the reason is, it makes me feel better. It makes me feel like, well, I'm okay. It's not really my fault. I'm still sincere. I'm still eager. But there's this obstacle which is external to me, and that's causing the problem. And then we feel good because the responsibility is not on us anymore. And so really, you could say that means you're feeling the bliss of being irresponsible, which a lot of people do feel. They don't like to be responsible. It's hard. Because if you're responsible, you have to do something. If you're not responsible, you don't have to do anything. There's nothing to do. It's not your fault. You're fine. There's nothing wrong with you. The problem is, if there is something wrong with you and you think there isn't, then you won't do anything, and then nothing will change. So, we breathe more easily when we think the will is weak because of blank. And we make a long list of things. What is on your list? Here are some of the things that might be on your list. So, Sundari Radha suggested that we do this exercise. So, this is the exercise. You find anything on your list of reasons why you can't be more Krishna conscious. Or let's say be as Krishna conscious as you know you should be, or you would like to be, or you can be. What are the reasons? And so I'm going to read some reasons, or read and discuss, and then if any of these reasons are your reasons, make a note of them, and as we're reading and discussing, if you come up with your own reasons that aren't on the list, please write them down. I think it's important. Okay, so here are some reasons why I can't be Krishna conscious, or I may not be able to be Krishna conscious. I don't live near a temple, so I'm not getting enough association. Let me go back a little bit. The word excuse comes from two words, ex and kusa. Kusa, I don't know how it's pronounced. And ex means without, and kusa means cause. So there was no cause for this, it just happened. Or I was not the cause. So when you make an excuse, it would sound like this. I can't be Krishna conscious because I don't live near a temple. I can't be Krishna conscious because I don't get a lot of good association. I can't be Krishna conscious because most of my time is spent at work. Now before I read the rest of the list, I want you to consider a question. It's a very powerful question, and I've spoken about this before. Maybe you have, and maybe you haven't heard it. When you make an excuse, okay, we'll go with the first excuse. I can't be Krishna conscious, or I can't be as Krishna conscious as I would like to be, or need to be, or want to be, because I don't live near a temple. Okay, so the next question to ask after you make an excuse is, would you bet your life savings on the fact that what you just said is absolutely true? Would you bet your life savings? Would you bet your life savings on the so-called fact, being absolutely true, that you can't be Krishna conscious because you don't live near a temple? So you'd probably say, I probably wouldn't bet my life savings on it. Okay, it seems true, but I wouldn't say it's absolutely true. Because it isn't, so I wouldn't bet my life savings on it. So any excuse you have, ask yourself the question, would you bet your life savings on this excuse? And I would venture to say 99.9%, if not 100% of the time, the answer would be no. Or another way, another question that's very powerful. I can't be Krishna conscious because I don't live near a temple. Then you ask yourself the question, is this absolutely true? Is this 100% absolutely true? And when you ask yourself the question, you realize that 99.999, if not 100% of the time, the answer is, it's not absolutely true. So either you ask, is it absolutely true, or would I bet my life savings on it being true? It's the same idea. You understand? Yes. So let's go down some more excuses. I can't be Krishna conscious because I don't get a lot of good association. Certainly good association will help. But say, I can't be Krishna conscious. I can't be Krishna conscious. It's impossible. Most of my time is, I can't be Krishna conscious because most of my time is spent at work. Now, that means that other devotees who spend most of their time at work are not Krishna conscious. Other devotees who don't get a lot of good association are not Krishna conscious. No. Other devotees who don't live near a temple are not Krishna. No. So why do you say you can't? Again, we go back to that point. Why do you say it? Makes you feel good. You're not responsible. Yeah, you can make your home a temple, of course. I don't get associated with when devotees say, I don't live near devotees. I say, well, go out and preach and start making devotees. Then you'll have devotees in your city. That's what Prabhupada did. Okay, I can't be Krishna conscious because I had a very sinful past. I have some news for you, Prabhus. This is Mataji's, or female Prabhus, as you like to be called. I have said many, many times that you can't say you can't be Krishna conscious because you had a sinful past, because you didn't have as sinful past as Nagari the hunter, or especially Jagai and Madai. They were very sinful, more sinful than anybody we know. But I just heard a story. There was a devotee named Roy Chandra, and he was more sinful than Jagai and Madai. I didn't think anyone existed who was more sinful. And he's more sinful than Jagai and Madai, and he got the mercy of Mahaprabhu. So we can't say I had a very sinful past. I mean, we can say I had a very sinful past, but we can't say that's preventing me from Krishna conscious, being Krishna conscious. The point is, having a sinful past can prevent you from being Krishna conscious if you believe it can prevent you. Not living near a temple can prevent you from being Krishna conscious if that's what you believe. And also I would say, if your sincerity is weak, you will allow yourself to believe that. If your sincerity is weak, if your greed is weak, then you will allow these excuses to work on you, to believe them. Okay. I can't be Krishna conscious because I'm not very blank. You can fill in the blank. I can't be Krishna conscious because I'm not very what? Smart? Very good at kirtan, I'm not very intellectual, I'm not very devotional, I'm not a very good person. Whatever your reason is, just fill in the blank. I can't be Krishna conscious because what? I'm not very what? Okay, here's another one. I can't be Krishna conscious because I'm not the same now as when I first started practicing Krishna consciousness. I was more Krishna conscious when I first became a devotee. Okay. So that means now you can't go back to that state? Of course you can. You can convince yourself you can't, but that's another thing. Okay, too much work. I have too much work. Well, you know what? Srimad Bhagavatam's waiting for you to read. You got to figure out how to do it. I have to. I'm not very fill in the blank. I have to. I can't be Krishna conscious because I have to take care of my mother, take care of my kids, work every day, whatever. I can't be Krishna conscious. My health is not good. I can't be Krishna conscious because I have a bad temper. I have a heavy mind. I have difficulty controlling my senses. I'm weak around the opposite sex. I watch too much TV. I'm addicted to pornography. I have hobbies that I love that take a lot of time away from Krishna consciousness. I don't have enough time for my spiritual practice. My spouse isn't Krishna conscious. My spouse and I don't get along. Now, ladies and gentlemen, these seem like laudable excuses, right? But the point is, you could do something about all of this. That's the whole point. Nirmal Chandra can bet his life savings because, well, you have $1.20 in your savings. That's better than most people. Most people are 10,000, or I think 8,000 in debt. So you're doing pretty good. He's living on the edge. When you live on the edge, Krishna will catch you. So we could take this in a different way. One of your excuses, whatever you wrote down, look at it and you could say, hey, well, this is true. I'm not very this. I have a bad temper. I have a heavy mind. It's true, I have a heavy mind. That's right there in the Gita. Anger is detrimental. It's a gate to hell. So you can justify it. But the point is, by making an excuse, you're giving into it. You're saying, I can't do anything about it. So that's the point. So, okay, I have a heavy mind. The next question is, what are you going to do about it? And so when you make an excuse, the answer is nothing. I can't do anything. When you don't make an excuse, the answer is, okay, I have to think what I'm going to do. So the premise is, if you're sincere, you'll do something. You'll have the energy to do something. That's why sincerity and eagerness is so powerful, because nothing's going to stop you. All of these problems won't stop you. Nothing. Absolutely nothing can stop you. Nothing can stop you. That's the name of this class. Nothing can stop you. That's your mantra. Nothing can stop you unless you allow it to. Unless you allow it to degrade to the level of excuse. So you have to make a list of what your excuses are. What's getting in the way between you and Krishna? What excuse that is. And then you have to do something about it. Okay, instead of making it an excuse, it's just what it is. I don't live near a temple. It's just a fact. It's not why you're not Krishna conscious. It's just a fact. And if that is having some ill effect on your Krishna consciousness, then you have some choices to spend weekends at a temple, to spend time in the holy Dham, to move from a big house to a... Well, I live far from the temple. Why? Because it's cheaper. Okay, maybe you want to get a simpler house closer to the temple. You know, there's so many ways to look at it. So you had some comments somewhere, somehow. Yeah, so when we said, I don't live near a temple, then Alice is saying, well, make your home a temple. Yeah, so, in other words, here's an excuse, what do I do about it? So, that eagerness causes you to think, what can I do about it? The lack of eagerness causes you to say, well, it's just the reality, and I'm stuck in this reality. There are devotees who are saying they cannot be Krishna conscious because they live in the temple. That also is a... Hare Krishna. That is so funny. Devotees are leaving the temple. Why? Because they can't be Krishna conscious. Devotees are moving in the temple. Why? Because they can't be Krishna conscious outside. You know, one of the things that Prabhupada wanted us to understand is you can be Krishna conscious anywhere you want, if you want it. That's the message. Yeah, you know, if you're living at home and all the people you're living with are non-devotees, yeah, it's going to be hard. Or you're living in a temple, everybody's fighting and nobody goes to Mangalartik. Yeah, obviously, it's going to be difficult. But the point is, there's no situation in which a sincere devotee would give up his Krishna consciousness. And what he might do is say, okay, that's a reality, this is not a conducive situation. So he'll get out of it. He'll go into a more conducive situation. So maybe that's how he deals with it. So it may be reality, yeah, I can't live at home. But that doesn't become the reality that causes him to lose his Krishna consciousness. It just becomes a reality that he has to deal with. Right? How come that I'm more eager to do seva than eager to have a steady sadhana, even though I do have the desire? Does that mean that I'm more sincere in doing seva? No, not at all. It means you're a bona fide conditioned soul, full of eagerness to run around and serve, and not full of eagerness to sit down and chant and read, which is more important. It's more important when you don't have the desire for it. And of course, service is, preaching is important, for sure. No question. But we're passionate. And sadhana is sattvic. That's why we're not attracted to it. It requires some level of purification. We all like to run around and do things. It doesn't mean you're necessarily more sincere. I think it means you're more conditioned. You know, if you like doing something, the spiritual master doesn't have to encourage you to do it. But he'll always encourage you to do sadhana. And we saw that with Prabhupada. Of course, Prabhupada was very encouraging to all of us. But he was always encouraging sadhana. That was foremost. So, I was thinking a lot about this point lately. And this is where we really need encouragement. And where we need to encourage ourselves. Sundari Radha says, I used too much work as a big excuse. But somehow in my mind I make an attempt to justify it because it's so-called important. Well, here's the problem. As soon as you don't make that excuse, now you're on a... You'll find the time. You'll find ways to make more money in less time. In other words, the excuse puts you in a causal and effect relationship with the excuse. So the excuse becomes the cause of all the subsequent actions and thinking. Whereas if you say, if I want, I will find the time. I can find the time. You'll notice that other things in your life will change. Maybe by saying I can find the time results in you figuring how you can make as much money in less time, which doesn't seem like a logical consequence of just saying I can find the time to be more Krishna conscious or to do more sadhana. I can find the time sounds like maybe a practical. It's very, I get up a half hour early or something. But sometimes when you think that way, it opens up new possibilities. And as I've said before, many devotees have experienced, when you are focused on finding the time, somehow the time just shows up. Or you get a client and you make enough money in 1 day in 2 days for the whole week. And now you have all this time. Or you have money to go to India or something, So the problem with excuses is they trap us into the problem that the excuse is describing. I'm too weak to do this. So if I'm too weak to do this, then I'm not going to do whatever it is I should do because I'm convinced I'm too weak. So that the excuse traps me into a kind of a circular maze. I don't know. You understand what I'm saying? It traps you into the system that's creating the problem. I can't be Krishna conscious because I don't get enough good association. All right, so am I going to give into that thought? Yeah, I give into that thought. I don't make any effort to get good association, or I don't make effort to do things that would help me even without getting good association. Okay, let's look at it this way. If you get good association, you'll be more Krishna conscious. But if you don't get good association all the time, it doesn't mean you can't be Krishna conscious. It's not all or nothing. It's just you'll get very good association, you'll be more Krishna conscious. At the same time, getting good association is not a guarantee. But you have to do something with that association. You have to take advantage of it. Right? So, you look at your excuse and you think, this is the excuse I'm using for lack of my Krishna consciousness. So what could I do about it? Hey, here's a good excuse. This is a good one for guys. The women in today's society, they're just too beautiful. They're dressed too sexy. What can I do? Well, I could think of a lot of things you could do. Start with not looking at them. Number one. That would solve most of your other problems. So you see, now what this devotee is saying, the women are too beautiful, I can't control myself. Yeah, I agree. If you think about them, if you look at them, yeah, they are too beautiful, the way they dress today. Or many of them are. So yeah, but if that's the case, that women are too attractive in the present age, so you ask yourself, that being said, what can I do about it? Right? Does that make sense? Okay, I don't have enough time. All right, what can I do about it? That's all. Whatever your excuse is, just ask yourself, what can I do about it? Whatever I'm challenged with, I'm constantly thinking how to deal with it. Or a service that isn't getting done. Or if there's no time, I'm constantly thinking, how am I going to get the time? When am I going to set aside this time? What do I have to do? And I think, I have to go to bed at 8 o'clock and get up at like 1 or 2 in the morning if I'm going to get this and that done. And then it happens. Krishna allows me to do it. So that's the idea. That's where the sincerity comes in. Because with that sincerity, you get the power and intelligence to deal with your excuse. Kailash is always chanting. Purnisha says, sometimes I feel Krishna is stopping me. I can't understand why he wouldn't make my material life more pro-sadhana and service. If he wishes, he can change that. Or is he testing me? Yeah, of course he's testing me. I have faith he will catch me when I fall on the edge, but standing on that edge and waiting. Well, maybe when you had more time for sadhana, you didn't take advantage of it. I mean, you weren't working for a long time. Did you read the whole Bhagavatam? Why? So Krishna might say, hey, you had so much time, you didn't take advantage of it, so I've just taken your time away. I would look at it personally and think, well, I guess my desire for sadhana is not stronger. It's not strong, so let me make it stronger and see what Krishna arranges. If I have a strong, I've had that experience where I just, so many years I didn't go to Vrindavan. I was like, I just want to go to Vrindavan, I want to go to India. And then we ended up living there 6 years. So that was like amazing. Just from a desire to spend more time, or I wanted to be more engaged in service, because I had, at that time in my life, I had a business, and it was taking me away from service, and there's so many programs and festivals and meetings and this and that I couldn't attend, that I used to attend all the time, and I just said, Krishna, I can't live this way anymore. And he made an arrangement to extricate me. So upgrade your desire a bit and see what happens. Can it be that attached to the excuse is more personal enjoyment than sincere desire to please Krishna? Yeah, but you would have to ask yourself, if you are attached to the excuse, then I think it's just good to ask yourself. This could be one reason. Having excuses externally makes things easier. Because then if you validate the excuse, you don't have to do anything because there's nothing you can do. Whereas if you don't validate it, you have to do something. And you may not want to do it. Or maybe you think you can't, or it's impossible, or whatever. Right? Yeah, you can pluck out your eyes. Yeah, that works. Any of the men have trouble? You could follow the Bilva Thakur Sampradaya. And if you see some lady on the street, she has some hairpin, say, could I borrow your hairpin for a minute? And just pluck your eyes out. Then that will solve your problem. You can pluck your eyes out by not looking. Don't you think that the cause root of all excuses to not be Krishna conscious is that we just don't want it? Yeah. That's what I've been saying. When we want to achieve something, and we really want it, we will just do it no matter what. Yeah, well, that's what I just said, yeah. Maybe better to work on our desire, then we will not find any excuse. Maybe we should think, why, although we are a devotee, we don't really want to be Krishna. Yeah, well, that's... I don't know, Krishna Conscious, if you realize that's what I've been... Well, maybe you came later. That's how the class began, with those points. But if you are sincere, you want to be Krishna conscious, you will look at the excuse. But in the absence of having that sincere desire, then I'm asking you, look at your excuse. But it amounts to the same thing. Yeah. So, I realize that there are a lot of devotees who don't really have a strong desire to be Krishna conscious. And in one sense, you could say they've allowed that to happen. Because if you put yourself in the right environment, if you're sincere, you'll put yourself in the right environment, and the right environment will then help you. And so we have a question, which is a segue into what I was just saying. Amrita Radhika says, how would the modes be an effect to excuses? For example, living in a temple, you just get up for Mangalarti. Or as you say in Australia, Mangalarti. It's actually Mangalarti, not Mangalarti. So I go to Mangalarti, chant your rounds class versus living in a more material situation where you have to work, support your family. temple environment is much more conducive. So excuses would happen more frequently. Yeah, you would have more surrounding you to make you believe you can't be Krishna conscious. That's the better way of understanding it. You have more potential excuses if you want to give in to those excuses. That's it. They're all okay. So I was living in a temple. Everything was good. I moved outside, got married. There's a song by George Harrison that Ganapati sent me. I had never heard it before. It might have been an obscure song. I think it was called Shady Lady or something. And one of the lyrics was something like, if you open your door and you let her in, your life won't be simple anymore. So Grihastha life is more complicated generally than the life of a simple brahmacharini. And so there are more distractions. But the point is, will you allow those distractions to become your excuses, or will you figure out how to deal with those distractions? Then in some cases, those distractions are the very things that make you stronger, because you've had to learn how to deal with them. Whereas if you give in to them, then you had an opportunity to become stronger, but you didn't use it because you took them as valid reasons for not being Krishna conscious. See, my point is, if you have this eagerness to be Krishna conscious, you will never give in to excuses. Even, like I'm saying, a lot of these excuses are very real. Yeah, now my life is complicated and I'm working, it's not the ideal environment, etc., etc. And I come home, instead of reading Bhagavatam, I'm changing diapers and taking the next shift because my wife is tired. Yeah, that's true. It's not ideal. But it doesn't mean you can't be Krishna conscious in that. You don't want to give in to those excuses. So yeah, you live outside the ashram, you have more excuses. So you have more reason to give in. I didn't read it, and so I regret it now. Thank you for your guidance. I will work on showing Krishna my regret, desire for more spiritual life. Yeah, that's all you can do. So King Shuk was just telling me, he said, we have a sadhana report, so I said, what was your realization? And he said, my realization was, when you pray from your heart deeply, Krishna reciprocates. So I like that, really sincerely praying, Krishna, I don't want this situation, I don't want to have to give in to this situation, I don't want to have to fault, I really see that I have this weakness, and it seems insurmountable, but I sincerely don't want to give in to it. Or I really want more time for sadhana. I just, I'm depending on you to help me work out my material situation, so I have it. I want more time for service. I'm depending on you. I'm going out on a limb, like that. I think having so many different options and ways to fill your time makes it a challenge to always make the right choice. So in a way, having limited choices can be a good thing. Yeah, you're working all day. I have a godbrother, and he could retire. But he told me, he said, I don't know what I would do if I retired. So even though he'd have all this time, which could be used for so many things, he thinks, it's better that I be engaged in my job. Don't you think it is not a kind of contradiction being a devotee and not having strong desire? There is such a thing as being a weak devotee, which of course is a contradiction. Being a devotee in the mode of ignorance or passion, which is a contradiction, but it's also a reality. Maybe we could call them sadhakas. That would be better, right? So being a sadhaka, yeah. Then it's not a contradiction. My premise is that if your desire becomes weak, you've allowed yourself to go into, by activities that you've done or avoiding activities that you should be doing, you've allowed yourself to fall into a weakened state. Now, a lot of devotees, when they fall into this weakened state, they don't know what to do, so they go to the holy Dham to rejuvenate themselves. But that's great. They're not allowing that weakened state to persist. They're doing something. So as long as you do something, you'll be okay. Right? So, do I have permission to end? Because we have to get ready. We're giving class at 7 and we have to drive to the temple and pack everything up. So, is that all right? Have your permission. And then if you want to see the next class, we're supposed to start at 7, but I think 7 means 7:15, so you can check. And we're going to be talking about ego, self-esteem, humility, and how that all works. And I think it'll be interesting. Have some insights I'll present that I haven't presented before. So we'll see you there. Is that okay? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol. Go